Good morning, Calvary Radio family. This is Pastor Jeff Chavis. I'm the pastor of Church Online, a unique online community of faith that you could find at churchonline.com, but we spell that uniquely CHRCH, CHRCH, because all that's missing is you. This morning, I want to talk about the words of Christmas. What do I mean by that? Well, as you're driving through your town, maybe you'll see that on someone's house, peace, joy. You're in the Hallmark store or the card section of your supermarket, and you see those words that just keep popping out at us during this time of year. And I think about how we've wrapped our minds around these different words and we focus on these different things. Again, peace, and it just seems like this, for so many, isn't really a time of peace, joy, and it's sometimes not really a time of joy, giving. We just got done with Thanksgiving, thanks, all of these different words. And really, the one word that is probably in the back of our minds that we don't even think about is the word timing. Timing is what really this season is about for so many of us. Oh, you know what I mean? The timing of when all the guests are going to come over, when that special service, maybe a candlelight service at church. What's the timing of that this year? What's the timing? Even specifically, you have guests over and we've got to fix the timing of all of the meals and the preparation and everything we've got going. And timing has been at the heart of the birth of Jesus since the very beginning. The timing is just so essential. I'm going to read you this passage. It's from Galatians chapter 4, 4 through 7. It says, "But when the fullness of time had come, God sent forth his Son, born of a woman, born under the law, to redeem those who were under the law, that we might receive adoption as sons." Now, that first part, when the fullness of time had come, that's the word timing. We don't really recognize at times how important the timing was for Jesus to come into the earth. It happened at, of course, the perfect time because it's God's time. We think about the Roman Empire in those days, the Roman Empire, and of course, they used the word peace. That was very important to the Roman Empire. The term in Latin is the Pax Romana, the peace of Rome. Very important to that timing then. But there were so many things that were set in place for just the right timing. If you began to think about it, there's the series of Roman roads. Before Rome, there was Alexander the Great who spread the Greek language, which we know the New Testament was written in. Everything was absolutely perfect. And it was absolutely perfect timing in the lives of that young couple that we remember, Mary and Joseph. Everything together for their son to be born. In fact, that's probably the most important word that we may skip over during Christmas time. Son. Let me read those words to you again and continue reading. It says, "When the fullness of time had come, God sent forth his Son, born of a woman, born under the law, to redeem those who were under the law, that we might receive adoption as sons." There's that word again. Son is probably the most important word we could think of when we think of the birth of Jesus. Mary and Joseph received a son, God's son, and then because of what he came to do on the earth, we have all been given the privilege of being adopted as sons. It keeps going. Verse 6. By the way, I'm in Galatians 4. Verse 6. "And because you are sons, God sent forth the Spirit of his Son into your hearts, crying out, Abba, Father. Therefore you are no longer a slave, but a son. And if a son, then an heir of God through Christ." Did you notice that? 6 times in those 4 verses, the word son is mentioned. But the second part of this is just so good and so much for us to wrap our minds around. The birth of that son that was laid in a manger, God's son, gave us the right to be adopted as sons. And by the way, when I say that, sons and daughters, of course. But then there's so much more to it. There's a privilege, there's an honor, but there's just this love that God has given us because he's made us part of his family, that we could call him Abba, Father. I've talked about that one before, but I always think it fits so well during this time of year. If you think about it, and I'm sure this will happen over the next few weeks as we head toward closer to Christmas, I know you'll be in a store somewhere and you'll hear someone crying out for mom or for dad. And it's true in the Middle East today. If you were to go there, and yeah, things are ramping up for various holidays there as well. And you may find yourself in a marketplace, one of those great outdoor markets in the Holy Land. And you're going to hear some little child yelling out, Abba, Abba. The word is still used today. And it's that term of endearment, that term of like daddy, daddy, we'd say in English. And do we really think of God in those terms? Because that's what this season really should remind us about. We have been adopted as sons, and we could cry out to our Abba Father. There's just such a closeness, and that's what this time is about. But then listen to verse 7. Therefore, you are no longer a slave, but a son. And if a son, an heir of God through Christ, again, a privilege and honor, but yet something so much more. And to say that we are no longer slaves. Many of us would shake our heads. Well, we have never been a slave. Well, that's what they said to Jesus too, wasn't it? We haven't been slaves to anyone. And oh, Jesus points out, yes, we are slaves to our own sin. The darkness of this world that may have gotten a hold of something in our lives. And we just, today, maybe we feel we are chained to something. If we really thought about it, our mind may go to a specific thing. This thing that's got a hold of me and I can't get rid of it, that we have become a slave to. That's what this is about as well. Think about that wonderful time. I hope you have the opportunity to get connected with family and how great that will feel to be together with family. Now, there may be fights and arguments, but ultimately it's just such a great time to be together as family. Now, think of that on the biggest scale possible. God is our Father, and that incredible homecoming moment when our lives become connected with His, when we become sons, and we have the right to call Him Abba Father, and then we are no longer a slave to that thing that's shackling us down, but we are a son. Oh, and not just a son, an heir of God through Christ. I don't know, maybe to somebody that sounds so good today. Maybe that sounds like exactly what you need. Maybe you don't feel the peace and the joy and the love this season. Maybe there's something you feel as if you are chained to. I'm here to tell you that Jesus is just a prayer away. To become a son is as simple as praying that prayer, Lord, just forgive me of my sins and receive me as your son. It's just that simple, and it could happen today. I don't know if somebody needs to hear that, or if maybe somebody is in that place. Oh, they know that they're adopted as a son or a daughter, but then they still feel chained and shackled down. All we have to do is cry out to our Abba Father today.